I don't plan on relying on someone who hasn't even gotten married past 30, acting all high and mighty with that chump change. I couldn't help but be shocked by the first words directed at me from the woman who was supposed to become my sister in law. My brother, with an even more malicious grin, turned to me. Sis, just go home already. Please don't forget to leave your gift, though. The two of them laughed at me together. I felt something close to hatred towards my brother, but the next words he said made me lose even that emotion. Well, it doesn't really matter if we have your gift or not. All our relatives love me, and they're probably giving us a lot of money. Mom likes me more than you, too, so she might even give me all of her property. Hey, that makes it sound like you're just using them for money. Well, it can't be helped. They're a good source of income. I never thought my brother could be such a terrible person. I was foolish for being considerate of these people. Despite it being our first reunion in a long time, my brother hasn't changed a bit since the old days. If anything, his terrible personality has only worsened, and I couldn't stand it anymore. I reached my limit and left the waiting room while the two of them laughed together. My name is Emma. I'm 32 years old. I work for a foreign cosmetics company. After graduating from college, I worked for another company, but I was lucky enough to be headhunted by my current company and changed jobs. The people I work with are ambitious, and I work tirelessly every day while receiving constant motivation. As a result, I now hold the position of department head. Ever since I started working at this company, they have recognized my worth. Every day has been enjoyable. Of course, there are times when I struggle with work, but the sense of accomplishment after overcoming those challenges is something I can't experience anywhere else. I've never been one to spend my days thinking about how much fun I'm having every day, especially before going to college. My days were very stifling. I have a younger brother, Nate, who is 5 years younger than me. Ever since Nate was born, my mom has been completely devoted to him. She loves him so much that I became less important to her. As a young child, I couldn't find anything to fill the loneliness of not being cared for by my mom. The more my dad and relatives tried to pay attention to me, the more I missed my mom. On the other hand, Nate was the first boy born in our family in a long time. He was also the type to easily get spoiled by anyone. So before long, our relatives stopped caring about me and only doted on my brother. To make matters worse, I have a strong sense of justice and hate wrongdoing. Not many people find a child who points out problems so cutely. Because of this, I became more and more distant from my relatives. The worst part was Nate's personality. Having been pampered by my mom and relatives, Nate grew into someone who couldn't be satisfied unless he was the center of attention, and knew exactly how to behave to get it. You could say he was skillful and good at getting by in life, but you could also say he was manipulative. I couldn't get along well with such a brother. Nate often got into fights, and my mom always defended him. I started to lose my sense of purpose. Not just my mom, but my relatives also started favoring Nate, and I began to feel uncomfortable whenever our family gathered. Seeing me like this, Nate would say, "Why don't you go to the other room, sis?" He had a smiling face, but he was giving me a look that didn't allow any objections. At that time, Nate was in the first grade of elementary school. If something bothered him, he wouldn't hesitate to lie and make me look like the bad guy. I had long lost my position as the older sister. When my brother said that, I had no choice but to leave. But what hurt more than being treated like an intruder by my brother was the way my mother and relatives acted. When my father noticed I was gone and asked, "Where's Emma?" the relatives just shook their heads, and my mother said, "I don't know." Then Nate jumped in. Speaking of which, the other day, my mother and the relatives listened with great interest to his story, as if I never existed. It was so heartbreaking. Nothing changed, even when I wasn't around. At times like that, only my father's sister, Aunt Ava, worried about me. "Here you are. Don't you want to go back to the others? Or do you not want to? As I cried quietly, sad and frustrated, my aunt sat down next to me without me noticing. She gently stroked my back as I buried my face in her lap. When I couldn't say anything, my aunt began to speak softly. I kind of understand how you feel, Emma. Maybe it's because I'm an older sister, too. Ever since my brother was born, he was the one who got all the attention. And you know how our relatives are, mostly women, right? So they really spoil the boys. I always thought it was unfair. You too, Aunt Ava? I was surprised. My aunt was always cheerful and in charge at family gatherings, and I never would have thought she felt that way. My aunt smiled gently in response to my question. Yes, when I was a kid. I was so jealous of my brother all the time. But he wasn't very talkative, so he wasn't always the center of attention like Nate. I think you must be feeling much worse than I did. Aunt Ava said this while gently stroking my head. I hadn't had my head patted like this in so long, and I felt a mix of emotions, happiness and embarrassment for letting her see how weak I felt. Our family has strong ties, you know. And Nate is kind of cunning, or maybe he's just good at winning people's hearts. He has that kind of personality, right? Everyone gets easily fooled by him. Really, Aunt Ava? You think that about Nate too? I was surprised again, thinking that no one in the family saw my brother that way. Aunt Ava winked at me, surprised. So don't forget, I'm watching you, Emma. If you want, I can talk to everyone about it. No, it's okay. Just knowing that you're watching me is enough to make me happy. All right, I understand. But if there's anything you want me to hear, I'll listen. You can always rely on me. After that, I looked forward to seeing my aunt at family gatherings. Even now that I've moved away, I still keep in touch with her regularly. The only other contact I have is the occasional email from my father with updates. Since I rarely go home, I don't know much about my family and relatives' current situation, so I never expected to get this kind of news from my father. Nate is getting married. Right now, I don't have a partner. One by one, my friends are getting married, and lately, even my coworkers are in a marriage rush. At a time when I was feeling a bit anxious, I got the unexpected news of my younger brother's wedding. Even though I'm not unhappy with my current life, I felt down. Then Nate contacted me, adding insult to injury. Hey sis, long time no see. I'm getting married, and my fiancée is already pregnant. Don't worry about not being married and showing our parents your grandchild. I've got that covered. But in return, give us at least $10,000 as a gift. It includes the cost of giving birth. Kids are expensive, you know. My already low excitement to celebrate Nate's wedding dropped to 0. Because of his sense of entitlement, I even considered not attending the wedding. But I convinced myself that this was a once-in-a-lifetime family event and decided to accept Nate's request. On the wedding day, after the ceremony, we were led to a family waiting room to prepare for the reception. I reunited with my mom and relatives after a long time had passed without seeing them. Of course, the topic was all about Nate. I tried to accept it since he was the star of the day, but my past memories kept coming back. That day, the gloomy, cloudy sky seemed like it would rain any moment, and my mood got darker and darker. That's when my dad talked to me. Emma, it's been a while. How's work? Oh, Dad, I'm getting by somehow. I see. So would you consider coming back home more often? My dad said that, but I didn't feel like it. Yeah, I'll come back when work calms down. I need to go to the restroom now. I left the family waiting room. I couldn't get out of there fast enough. I thought I had changed a bit, but I see others don't change so easily. As expected, I felt uncomfortable in front of my relatives. I let out a big sigh. At that moment, my phone vibrated. Come to the bride and groom's waiting room right now. It was a message from Nate. What does he want at a time like this? I headed to the bride and groom's waiting room, pondering. Did you bring it? As soon as I arrived, Nate asked me this question. I didn't understand at first. But I realized what he meant from his and his wife's nasty looks. Yeah, I brought the $10,000 gift. Are you satisfied now? Congratulations on your wedding. I reluctantly offered my congratulations, even though my heart wasn't in it. But I immediately regretted being considerate. Only $10,000? I clearly said to give more than that. Isn't it common courtesy to give more than the requested amount? You're as clueless as ever, sis. Wait a minute. Isn't $10,000 already a generous amount? I gave it because you said the baby was coming. Isn't your attitude a bit much? If you choose to act like this, I don't want to be involved with you in the future. As I snapped back, Nate exaggeratedly clicked his tongue. I was really annoyed that despite giving them the $10,000 they asked for, they still complained. As I glared at my brother, his wife standing next to him put her hand on her hip and laughed at me. Don't worry. We don't plan on relying on someone who's still unmarried in her 30s and acting so high and mighty for such a small amount of money. I couldn't help but be shocked by the first words directed at me by the woman who was supposed to be my sister-in-law. Nate also gave me a malicious grin. Yeah, just take your gift and leave. Make sure you leave the gift money. The two of them laughed at me together. I felt a strong hatred for my brother and his wife, but Nate's next words made me lose that feeling. Well, even without your gift, we'll be fine. All our relatives love me. I'm sure they gave us a lot of money. Mom likes me more than you, too. She might even give me her entire fortune. Wait, that makes it sound like you're just using them for money. Well, it's true. That's why we invited fewer friends and more relatives. I never thought my brother could be such a terrible person. I couldn't help but be shocked by Nate and his wife, who seemed to find it amusing that he viewed our relatives and even our mother like that. I was stupid for worrying about them. I was disgusted by my brother, who hadn't changed at all since we were kids and had only gotten worse. Unable to bear it any longer, I left the bride and groom's waiting room as they continued to laugh. Emma! As soon as I left the waiting room, I heard someone call my name. It was my Aunt Ava. Seeing my aunt, I couldn't help but let my feelings show. Auntie, I can't take it anymore. I'm leaving. When I said that, my aunt showed her anger. I heard what just happened. This is unforgivable. Everyone should know about it. But it's true that everyone likes Nate, right? If I say something, I'm sure no one will believe me. It's not like he's forcing our relatives to give them money, so it's just a matter of me putting up with it. It's fine. I don't think I'll ever see them again anyway. Apparently, my aunt had been worried about me looking uncomfortable in the relatives' waiting room and followed me when I left. After she had heard my conversation with Nate and his wife, my aunt suggested telling everyone. But after seeing the two of them laughing and looking down on our entire family and relatives, I had already given up. However, my aunt was filled with anger, contrary to how I felt. You don't have to put up with it anymore, Emma. I never thought Nate would go this far. There's still time. Let's confront them together and reveal everything. If anyone still supports Nate after that, then they can be their source of money or whatever else they want. Encouraged by my aunt's words, I decided to face the situation and returned to the family room with her. Surprisingly, my mother's brother, Uncle John, believed my story right away. Actually, there have been some bad rumors about him at the company. I didn't want to doubt my nephew, and I thought it was natural for the business to have some bad times. But after hearing Emma's story, it all makes sense. I guess I was only considered valuable as long as I was paying him. Uncle John runs a company, and Nate works there. It seems Nate has been taking advantage of his position as the president's nephew and doing whatever he pleases. Because Uncle John is the company's president, our relatives respect him. When he acknowledged my story, everyone started to believe me, one by one. There's no way Nate could be like that. My mother, who had been adamant until the end, gradually grew suspicious, not only because of me, but also because my aunt had talked about Nate. My mother, who had been asked for hundreds of thousands of dollars for wedding and childbirth expenses, seemed to have her doubts, and eventually accepted our story. My father, who seemed to have believed me from the beginning, was radiating with anger. At that moment, when all the relatives finally listened to me and my aunt, my father spoke up.
I'm sorry for our son. We must have raised him wrong. Let's all go home today. He doesn't deserve to be celebrated.
With those words from my father, my mother and all the relatives decided not to attend the wedding reception. My parents hurriedly left the family room to explain the situation to the other guests. As we waited at the shuttle bus stop, the people who were supposed to attend the wedding started to arrive. At the end of the crowd, I could see my parents. My father gave me a strong nod when he saw me. I'm sure all the guests had decided not to attend. Thank you for believing in me. I tried to convey that to my father, but as I approached him, he was yelling into his cell phone.
Who would celebrate someone like you, who repays kindness with malice?
The person on the phone must be Nate. It was the first time I had seen my father so openly angry.
I heard from Aunt Ava, Nate. It seems you've been calling our family and relatives a bunch of gold diggers. How could you say that after all they've done for you? We have no intention of celebrating you anymore. We're going home today.
My father hung up the phone and apologized to me for all the hard times I had gone through. As soon as we got on the bus, Nate called me.
Emma and Aunt Ava turned everyone against us and spread rumors. Now nobody's left at the venue.
I calmly responded to Nate, who was panicking and raising his voice. Your Aunt Ava heard you guys making fun of the family. She joined in the conversation, so everyone believed us. Can you stop saying I spread rumors? I just told the truth. It's the same thing. What are you going to do about it? And I don't know. We're already on the bus.
Don't say that. Are all of them on the bus too? If so, please convince them to come back with you.
At first, Nate was confident, but now his voice sounds like he's about to cry, realizing the situation is bad. But I didn't feel like forgiving him at all. You just want the gift money, don't you?
That's not my intention.
Either way, we're not coming back, so goodbye. I'll cut ties with you after this.
Wait, sis.
I heard my brother's desperate voice from the phone, but I hung up without caring. After that, cell phones started ringing, one after another on the bus. It must have been my brother and his wife calling, but no one answered the calls from someone who saw their family and relatives as cash cows. In the end, my brother and his wife couldn't get any gift money from the attendees, not just me, our parents and relatives. They seemed to have planned to pay for the wedding with the gift money and ended up in a lot of debt. Not only me, but our parents and relatives were contacted for help, but no one was willing to help Nate anymore. On top of that, they lost contact with the few friends they had invited. The punishment for my brother was far from over. Our uncle fired Nate. He probably couldn't bring himself to defend my brother, who had been performing poorly and had a bad reputation. His wife had already quit her job for marriage, and even though they were in debt, I'm pregnant. She didn't seem to want to work. In the end, they had no money, constant fights, and decided to divorce before the baby was born. After giving birth, his wife tried to make money working at night, but her bad personality held her back, and she could barely pay off the debt. My brother couldn't find another job and got stuck in a cycle of borrowing more money to pay off his debts. He seemed to have come back home for help several times, but both our father and mother rejected him. On the other hand, I've been going back to my parents' house more often since Nate's wedding. I've been attending family gatherings, and I don't feel uncomfortable anymore. As a result, I feel like I have more room in my heart and can see things from a much broader perspective. I've become more flexible in dealing with work accidents and requests, and my colleagues, subordinates, and bosses have praised the change in atmosphere. And just the other day, I was invited to dinner by a salesperson from a company we've been dealing with for a while. I feel a little excited about the long-awaited signs of spring.
That speech earlier, why was everyone laughing so much? Oh, just a few jokes in French and English. What did you say? You didn't understand? Never mind that. Please tell me. You remember when you said you wanted to eat a buffet? And you wanted to say buffet in English, right? But it's not buffet, it's buffet. Huh? Buffet means abuse, so you proudly said you wanted to eat abuse. I said, I'm counting on this newcomer who throws such a black joke. I am Natalie Smith. My husband Frederick and I have 2 children, both of whom are adults and live with us. I work part-time at the headquarters of a major corporation. This company has branches overseas, and employees from various nationalities work there. So not only Japanese, but also many other languages are spoken in the office. I used to work as a full-time employee at this company, but I requested early retirement due to my husband's retirement. However, I was asked to stay on as a part-time worker with a more flexible schedule, so I'm currently still working for the company. At first, I accepted the proposal and decided to work part-time, but in reality, there's not much difference in working hours compared to when I was a full-time employee. This is not conducive to enjoying my husband's retirement. Considering my working conditions, the company assigned a new employee to handle half of my workload. However, this new employee turned out to be quite a handful. Ashley-san is an outstanding and talented person who graduated from a prestigious university. As an expected new recruit, I was relieved to think that my job would become easier. However, she seemed discontent from the moment she was assigned. Why do I have to do this kind of job? I didn't miss the words, she muttered. She probably thinks she's too talented for this position and deserves something better. When she found out that I was her trainer, her expression soured even more. A part-timer as a trainer. Lame. Well, she might just be a slightly sharp-tongued newcomer. There are always people like that joining the company every year. This type of person joins the company every year. Having confidence in oneself is great. However, those with high pride often struggle when they face the gap between their self-confidence and reality. And then they leave the company feeling that it doesn't appreciate them. I wonder if she's that type too, but she's still young. I'll overlook her cheekiness for now. Are you a part-timer, Miss Smith? Yes, that's right. So, did you only finish high school? Huh? No. Wait, you're not saying you only finished middle school, are you? Ashley, what does educational background have to do with this job? You attended the orientation, didn't you? Yes, of course. Didn't they explain it to you then? This company doesn't tolerate any form of harassment, including asking about someone's educational background. Be careful about your behavior in the workplace. She seemed unhappy with my warning and maintained a sullen expression. It's easy to imagine that working together in the future might be difficult. Hiding your educational background. Well, I can pretty much tell. She seems to be unable to feel satisfied unless she speaks out her thoughts. Since you were assigned here to help me with my work, please make sure to learn it properly. She remained silent with a sharp expression on her face. Understood. Yes. She sat next to me and started chatting away without even doing any work. She went on and on about how competent and global she is. She claimed that she's good at both English and French. To put it simply, it was all just bragging, a way for her to show off. It's quite surreal to see a young person in their 20s trying to one-up a 65-year-old. It's quite surreal. And when it was time for lunch break, she invited me to lunch. Smith-san, can you treat me to lunch? Huh? I'm okay with it. But don't you want to eat with your peers? No, I'm your junior. Let me treat you as a way to get to know you better. I've seen a lot of young people, but she's the first of her kind. Well then, let's go together today. Thank you. But are you okay with the money? You're just a part-timer after all. Ugh. She's finally saying what she wants to say. She's so full of ill will. Really, she's just like a child. Yes, don't worry about it. By the way, is there anything you want to eat? Yes, I want to go to a buffet. Is there a good one around here? What are you talking about? Her statement made the entire office freeze. However, she seemed completely confident despite her obvious misunderstanding. Oh, right. You don't understand English, do you, Mrs. Smith? Huh? Do you understand if I say Buffett? Well, let's go then. Thanks for the treat. At this point, her troublesome personality starts to look cute. Since then, despite receiving guidance from her, she's incredibly slow at learning. Of course, there's no doubt that she's capable of studying since she graduated from a prestigious university. However, whether it's due to her pride or not, she doesn't pay attention to jobs she's not interested in. Moreover, she's not aware of it. Everyone around her adjusts to her level and speaks Japanese. She's attended countless meetings so far, but it seems she doesn't understand the language and the conversation falls apart. She has absolute confidence in herself. Therefore, she probably doesn't even notice that people around her are being considerate. Ashley, the numbers on this document are wrong. Fix them right away. This repeats every day. With this, my workload will never decrease. It just keeps increasing. Well, if you found the mistake, why don't you fix it, Mrs. Smith? I'm not good at Japanese. Oh, really? Don't worry. This isn't a matter of Japanese or not. It's just numbers. Fix it quickly and submit it. I see her scowling face every day. I've become so used to it that I don't feel anything when I see that face. Ugh, what a hassle. I can hear you. Just do it. Then she stares at my face. Why are you acting so bossy as a part-timer, Mrs. Smith? Bossy? Be careful with your choice of words. Don't forget that you're in a position to seek my guidance. See? You're really bossy. Why is a part-timer in charge of training in the first place? It doesn't make any sense. Despite the approaching quitting time, all she does is talk. That's because I used to be a full-time employee. Huh? So you got demoted? No, not demoted, but downgraded to part-time. She bursts out laughing. Hilarious. So you can't do that job, huh? Honestly, she's so narrow-minded. Look, everyone has their own circumstances. We don't have time for unnecessary talk, so fix it quickly and submit it. All I can say for now is that I'm more skilled at this job than you. Enough with the useless chatter. Get to work. Even if she's academically capable, this personality makes her future worrisome. If I could be greedy, I would have liked to have more talented person assigned. Well, I'm not in a position to interfere with the company's decision. They assigned her to reduce my workload. I'm very grateful for that sentiment, but it's a rocky road ahead. I was under a lot of stress, but I endured it and faced her. However, she was the same. It seemed like she had her own stress built up. And to vent that stress, she took an outrageous action. There's a certain daily routine in this company. It's a morning meeting where one employee gives a speech. Of course, since this is a multinational gathering, the speeches are in various languages. English is the main language, but there's also speeches in Japanese, Chinese, Spanish, and French. There's no particular content requirement. It's more like a practice ground for speaking confidently in public. And it was Ashley's turn to give the speech that day. She boldly stepped forward and started speaking in her proud French. But let's overlook the fact that her conversation was still quite clumsy since she's still a newcomer. The surrounding employees also directed gentle gazes at her. Then midway throughout her speech, she started introducing me. As a part-time job senior, she's been very helpful to her. That's why she wants to introduce me at this event. She wants to learn from my excellent part-time job senior speech. However, the face of the person who invited me was not just grinning, but very distorted. I see. She probably thinks that I downgraded to a part-time job, as she put it, could not possibly give a speech. Please give your speech in French, senior. The face of the girl whispering in my ear was very ugly. Am I, a 65-year-old woman, going to compete with a young whippersnapper in her 20s? As I started my speech in French, her eyes widened and she stood there with her mouth open. Of course, that's to be expected. I was stationed in Paris for 8 years, so there's no way I can't speak French. I still have high hopes for her growth as a newcomer. She's very humorous. She joked about wanting to eat a baguette a while ago. She gave me the opportunity to correct her in my mind, saying, "It's buffet, not baguette." I'm happy to be the mentor of such an interesting girl. Please take care of the two of us from now on. As I made that speech, the employees laughed out loud. Good, I managed to include some humor in my speech. My sense of humor isn't dead yet. However, while everyone was laughing, Ashley was still standing there, dumbfounded. Maybe it didn't get through to her? After the morning meeting ended and we sat down, she asked me, "What did you say earlier?" "Huh? Your speech earlier. Why did everyone laugh so much?" "Oh, I just included a few jokes in French and English." "What did you say? You didn't understand?" "Just tell me, please." "You said you wanted to eat a baguette before, right? So what? You meant to say buffet in English, right? Then it's not baguette, it's buffet, huh?" Baguette means abuse. So you probably said you wanted to eat abuse. I said I'm looking forward to working with a promising newcomer who can make such a dark joke. Then she turned red and teary-eyed. "You were the one who said you wanted to give me a speech. Why are you making that face?" Because this is a company. Watch your tone. I don't think someone downgraded to part-time could speak fluent French. Oh, were you trying to make me look foolish? Well, that was expected. You know, there's no such thing as everyone following the same path in life. I have my own journey that I've walked. You're not my family, so you wouldn't know what kind of path I've taken, right? You don't know that I was stationed in Paris or San Francisco. Stop judging people based on what's in front of you right now. You'll end up being embarrassed. She doesn't say anything, looking down. If you were able to join this company, it means you've worked hard studying up until now, right? Be careful not to waste your efforts with your actions. Are you trying to one-up to me? It's annoying. You think you know everything, that you're so knowledgeable. Annoying. I think your strong competitive spirit is one of your good points. You know, the moment you think you know everything, you're actually ignorant. There are so many things to learn in the world. Even at 65 years old, there's an infinite amount of learning to do. Every day is a day of study. You should also look to new things and grow without being complacent with your current self. She doesn't say anything back. And since then, she never opposed me again. When her mistakes are pointed out, she still shows a sulky expression, but she honestly fixes them and resubmits. 2 years later, she's able to handle all her work smoothly. Now there's no problem if I leave the company. And so I reach the day of my retirement, leaving the company where I've worked for over 40 years. There's a deep sense of emotion, but from now on, I'll enjoy my remaining years with my husband. I want to go to various countries, see different things, and gain experiences. My future is still bright. On my last day at work, after the scheduled time, the people in the department presented me with a bouquet. I gratefully accepted them, and as I was leaving the department, Ashley called out to me. "Senpai, here." She's holding a long box with a ribbon. "Oh, for me? Thank you. Can I open it now?" I unwrapped the paper, opened the box, and inside is a stylish wristwatch. "Wow, it's lovely. Thank you. Thank you for everything. And I'm sorry for all the impertinent things I said." "Aw, no. You were a cute, cheeky junior. When you first started working under me, I honestly thought you wouldn't last long, but you stuck with me. You proved me wrong in a good way. Thank you. Does this watch have any special meaning?" "Well, you'll be traveling to various countries with your husband, right? I thought it'd be nice if you could mark the time together with this watch." "Oh, wow. How thoughtful of you. I'm so delighted. Oh, I'm going to have to start using this tomorrow." "Natalie, are you free after this?" "I'm sorry, I have family plans tonight." "I see. My apologies. Is there something you needed?" "No, it's just that I wanted to treat you. to a buffet as a retirement celebration sometime. Ah, that sounds nice. I'm going to look forward to it. I left the company with a peaceful feeling. When I got home, my husband, children, and grandchildren had prepared a retirement party for me. My husband's special roast beef and a cake made by my grandchildren under my daughter's guidance were arranged. My life is filled with happiness. I want to continue to cherish learning in everyone I interact with, including my family.